The modern man today, the Renaissance engineer, is an achiever in all the varied spheres of life. We build big machines, create gigantic buildings, brutally accurate weapons, super fast race cars, and much more. We use the latest in science and technology to live lives, and much the same to kill lives in wars. We have built the tallest building and are still building them. What about a puzzle of a temple where you place one block over the other? Simple sound, doesn't it? Can't we use everything we know to put back what our ancestors have done ages ago? They only had manpower, but today we have machine power. When our great-grandfathers have built the monuments using just their brain and pure muscle strength, can't we use our 21st century techniques and machine strength to protect them? Sounds too confusing? Let me take you back in the ages to an ancient temple devoted to Lord Shiva, now unfortunately in the ruins, forgotten by the modern man. The story dates back to 11th century AD. Udayaraja Chola's successors built two temples in Panagal, a remote village barely 110 kilometers from Hyderabad in Andhra Pradesh. It was the capital during the regime of Kaktiyas. The village is comatose today. It is home to two extraordinary temples that are engineering masterpieces in their own right, sort of when science meets art. The elaborate and detailed panel carvings found on them is like a crash course in Hindu mythology. Every story of significance has been beautifully depicted. Of the two temples, the Chaila Someshwara temple is a less impressive by looks, but it has one extraordinary feature that makes it unique. The Shiva Lingam is, while the daylight is present, straddled by a permanent shadow like that of a pillar, yet there is no discernible cause for such a shadow to fall across it. Insofar as my knowledge goes, this is unique in all of India and perhaps even in the world. The temple also has one of the earliest representations of Dattatreya. 1000 years ago, these temples were erected for the greater glory of the ruler's favorite god, Shiva. The Chaila Someshwara temple is about a kilometer away from the village itself. Set in the middle of a plain, it dominates, and backed by what was once a royal garden or a park, which is now reverting to an agricultural land. The temple is clearly visible in its pyramidal form, favored by the then Hindu architects to represent the abode of Shiva, the mountains of the Himalayas. The stone gateway which leads to the garden is now in some slight disrepair. The four pillars at the center of the temple, although identical, produce different frequencies of sound, resulting in a harmony. My favorite muse is the Pachala Someshwara temple. Built in 12th century AD, the Pachala Someshwara temple is unusually intriguing, as according to sources, the builders were never clear what they wanted to convey. It is actually a rectangular hall with a temple superstructure, row after row of pillars splitting the interior into aisles. There are 72 pillars in total, with the superstructure housing 4 temples belonging to Raja Rajeshwari, Shiva, Ganesha, and another idol-less temple. People could not predict which deity dominated the shrine. The uniqueness of the temple lies in its sculpture. In terms of density, this temple is a pure champion. The bizarre ambition of the sculptors was to represent every important myth of the Hindu tradition upon its walls, pillars, and ceilings. And yes, they achieved it far more. Everything is crammed tightly with a weird exuberance that you cannot but admire in amazement. Stories of Shiva, Vishnu, Skand, Ganpati, and Durga, and many more saving the world from the forces of evil are shown in these scriptures. Along with such profound detail, the builders have even carved a magnificent life-sized idol of Nandi. The four pillars surrounding Nandi are carved with depictions of the greatest epics of Hindu mythology, the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. The outside walls are decorated with abandon in a style never before tried, as vertical lines of scrolls are interspersed with carvings of the gods. There is a dancing Ganpati carved in an obscure corner, a spectacular little joke actually, as this now ubiquitous representation was then a sensational departure from the tradition. The great heroes of the Mahabharata, Bhim, Karn and Vrikodara, have also been depicted as the wolf-bellied Bhim of the terrible deeds, clubbing unfortunate elephants to death in battle. Many images have been deliberately disfigured by what the guidebooks coyly refer to as Vandals, that is, invaders from the north of India. You can even see the Ganpati riding a mouse, Mushika, which depicts the comic sense of the sculptor. According to some villagers, the Pachala Someshwara temple was removed for renovation and the stones were numbered and displaced from the temple around 10 to 15 years ago. Till date, no contractor or engineer has been able to place back the stones, even though they were numbered. According to the archaeological department, the workers tried to restore the pattern but failed, as the temple had been damaged by vandals. They built the remaining temple somehow with cement. Which theory to believe is for you to question. Our rich cultural heritage has the answers to all the questions, whether scientific, philosophical or spiritual. It is said, to create the future, one must honor the past. And here we are, caught up in the horde of megastructures, riding on business and commerce. But haven't we forgotten our own roots of excellence, which lay isolated in the stones of a great temple, waiting to be put back in all its glory? Is it too big a challenge? The modern man, the so-called Renaissance engineer, needs to question himself if he believes in himself.